When I was growing up, one of my favorite things to do was just to play video games. I always thought that they were just such a cool, unique art form that you could be interactive with in a way you couldn't with other forms of art. You could really either take your time with a game or speed through it. It's really up to you in a way that it's not if you're listening to like an hour-long album or a 30-minute long episode of TV. And I grew up with older brothers, so it gave me something to do with them. I was always a big fan. But then around middle school, high school, I hit that age where I started to be embarrassed about things like video games, and for whatever reason thought this is something that makes me like nerdy or something I should suppress or hide. And I never stopped gaming completely, but I definitely cut back a huge amount. And this lasted for probably about a decade, and it wasn't until after I graduated college and started working real jobs, 9 to 5s, which is actually fake because 9 to 5 isn't a real thing. Jobs are actually 8 to 5. With an hour of lunch. They don't tell you that until you get a job. And once I started working these 8 to 5s, I realized I need to get back to the things that I love, the things that bring me joy, in those few hours of the day that I'm not at work. So I shed my layers and I realized I love playing video games, and I've missed out on it for the past like 12 years. So about 5 years ago, I kind of started gaming again. And to make up for all that lost time, I sort of just looked at big releases that either I missed in the past decade or were around before the past decade and I just never got a chance to play when I was younger. Kind of getting into the history of video games, especially a big part that I maybe missed out on. So today, I've chalked up a handful of games that I've played in the past half decade or so that have really gotten me back into gaming and re-sparked that fire, my love for video games. So I just thought I'd give my thoughts on some of those games that I've played. Grand Theft Auto 3 is a game I've been having a ton of fun with. If I had to guess, I'd say I'm probably around halfway done with it, although it's kind of hard to tell in games like these. Really, I haven't been paying too much attention to how deep into the game I am. I just pick it up every once in a while and kind of just play a mission or two here and there, and it's so much fun. I was really surprised at how much fun I had with this one. I originally went back to play it just for maybe an hour or so because I really wanted to get started with Vice City. I heard that the story in Vice City was really sick. It's got like the Miami background. But I had them both, Vice City and GTA 3, so I figured, you know, I'm already going back. I might as well go back just a little bit further, just to see what it was like. And I ended up getting invested in the story and having a lot of fun with it. It really gives me that nostalgic feeling of super early 2000s when I was young enough that life wasn't really life yet, still had the innocence of youth. But it's a Grand Theft Auto game, so it obviously has a lot more adult themes, so it kind of gives me a cool blend of childhood and adulthood. When I first started playing this, I played the copy that I have for my PlayStation 2, and I had a few complaints, things that I didn't think aged all that well. Mostly the lighting was just so poor. There was times I couldn't see enemies or things I was supposed to see, and even part of the city wouldn't load until I felt like I was right there. Just felt very dated in those aspects. The gameplay in a lot of ways felt similar to like Grand Theft Auto 5, like there weren't too many features missing. There was just small things, like as far as I could tell, you couldn't open up the map really and look at things in more detail. You couldn't set like GPS markers. But then I looked and saw that they remastered Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas and put them all on modern consoles. So I downloaded that, put it on my Switch. I saw it had not great reviews, looked more into that. I guess it was one of those games that when it launched, it was super broken, but it's gotten fixed since then, which I normally still don't support games like that. I try to hold that over their head for the entire duration of the lifespan, because I don't think that video games should be released in a broken state ever. I think that's inexcusable, even if you fix it. But I mean, it's Grand Theft Auto. I know what it is. I know what I'm getting into. It fixed all the things that I was complaining about, and just made for a much more enjoyable experience, kind of combining that newer Grand Theft Auto engine with the gameplay from GTA 3. I've been having a ton of fun with this one. Another game I've been having a blast with has been Super Mario Galaxy, the first one. Originally released for the Wii, I got it in that Mario 3-pack that came with Sunshine and Mario 64 on the Switch, and played it on there with my girlfriend. We actually just got the 120th star just a couple days ago, so I finally just finished this one very recently. This is one that I started probably 5 or 6 times as a kid and just never really got far in it, probably never got more than like 10 stars. I don't really remember why I couldn't get into it as much. I will say the controls felt a little bit stiff compared to even like Mario 64. I mean, it's a Mario game, they're still incredibly fluid, but just a little bit reduced from what I was already used to. And I was also a little bit confused by the main hub, where you go to the different rooms to get to the different planets, galaxies. Kind of the Mario Galaxies version of the castle from Mario 64. And so unfortunately, this is one that I never really played or got far into until this year. And I really regret that because I had so much fun with it. The platforming, the movement, the level design, all phenomenal. Really, my favorite thing about this game just has to be the graphics, the visual design, looking at the different planets, seeing the colors, the space theme. I like when you're playing a video game and you're very aware of the fact that you're playing a video game, right? It's like a fictional world. Looks, you know, somewhat whimsical, cartoonish, but also just the vast emptiness of space gives you a very contemplative feeling. And when you put that into the innocence and just pure fun of a Mario game, it's a really interesting combination. Like I said, I played this one with my girlfriend. It was a very cute experience. Definitely one that made tough days a little bit easier. Oh my god, Bloons 6 is a game I didn't know existed until just a couple years ago, and as soon as I found out, I immediately bought it and just started playing. Bloons 4 was a game that I played so many times my freshman year of high school. I had a computer class that lasted an hour, and the work in there took probably about 20 minutes. So for 40 minutes each computer class, I was playing Bloons 4 with friends. And that's a game I would say I have mastered. Anytime I touch Bloons 4, I'm getting to a point where I've beaten the game. I get to that point where you're so overwhelmed with money and resources that there's just no way you'll lose and the game gets boring. So finding out there was not only a Bloons 5, but hot dog, a Bloons 6, blew my mind. And I immediately got super into it, and I still to this day have only played the first level because each level has these challenges, and I'm stuck on the very last one, which is like half mode. Basically, you get half health, half money, half resources, half of everything to beat it. And I've tried optimizing it for about a year now, and I promise you, I'm so close to beating it. As soon as I beat it, I'll play the rest and let you know my thoughts. But I will say I'm having a ton of fun with this first level right here. Any day now, we'll get finished with it. Persona 5. Oh my god, the music and the visuals from Persona 5 are some of the sickest things in video games. The soundtrack is one I'll just listen to outside of playing the game itself, which I hardly ever do with game soundtracks. And there are some cutscenes that have this like anime style to them that just blew my mind. This is a game I sometimes have installed on my computer, sometimes don't. I've been playing it on and off for about 3 years now. I'm still not super far in it. I've just passed the first palace. I have no idea how long the game is. I hear it's, you know, tons and tons of hours, so I assume I'm like barely into it at all. But I just love everything about it that I've seen so far. The environment, the characters, how they talk to each other, the gameplay, how you interact. It's just been a very cool experience, and one of the few games I don't feel that itch to complete immediately. I just sit down and play it for however long I'm feeling like playing, and the entire time I feel completely present in that experience, which for me is really hard to do, even in video games. Can't say I've ever had anything less than an 11 out of 10 time playing this game, and talking about it now makes me want to reinstall it and play it for 10 hours straight, so I'm gonna go do that. Rivals 2 is a game that 6-year-old me couldn't even imagine exists. It is the mainstream, more accessible version of Melee I've been looking for since 2001. Very fun platform fighter. It feels like it has the mechanics of a game like Super Smash Bros. Melee, my favorite game of all time, but the accessibility that a new person could come in and pick it up and not just get completely decimated right off the bat. I mean, they probably would, but they could pick up the basics way easier than you could in a game like Melee. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's like as good or as fun as Melee or imply that it's replaced Melee in any regard, but I also don't think that it should just be compared to Smash or really any other fighting game. I think it's its own thing, it's really unique, and I'm excited to see what the community does with it. I know, being a member of the Melee community, we've kept it going for 24 years now on our own. It's interesting to see what a community like this can do with a developer that believes in the community and has a friendlier relationship with the community than Nintendo has with the Smash scene. I don't have a ton of thoughts on this one. I know I keep just comparing it to Melee, but I mean, the inspiration is very clear. I don't think they're trying to hide that by any stretch of the imagination. And many games have tried to imitate that formula, and this one, I would say, just blows the rest out of the water. Miles above anything close to it. Other than Melee, of course. Intropoly is going to be the least well-known game that I have on this list. Actually, just talking about Rivals 2, how similar to Melee it is, reminded me of a tweet I saw, probably about a year ago, about this game, Intropoly, and how similar the movement feels to Melee. And it was kind of a tweet urging all Smash players, Melee players specifically, to go check out this game with really fluid movement. And so I check it out and it kind of reminds me of like speedrunning meets Melee. It's just a game with extremely smooth movement, really cool stages, really interesting levels, and just trying to complete those stages as quickly and fluidly as you can. Really simple concept, but just done so well. Each world you go to has a new mechanic it introduces into your movement that always gets done in a really unique way, and the levels always incorporate it in a way that's really fun to play. Don't have a ton more to say on this one. It's pretty simple, but just so much fun. Some of the most bang for your buck you can probably get on Steam. Would recommend it to anyone who has $10 extra. I started Half-Life mostly so I could play Half-Life 2, and I really wasn't expecting much. I expected this to be by far the most dated game on the list. And while it was in a lot of ways, it holds up surprisingly well. I could not believe this thing was made in the 90s for the computer. There were times I got lost, just in the open world. It's huge, it's really interactive, type of game I would get lost in. And there were a couple times getting lost and just having that thought of, oh my god, how old is this game? Probably my favorite thing, ironically enough, about this game is the visuals. While, like I said, it's a little dated in that regard, the monsters scared me a couple times. Particularly those things that hang on the ceiling and suck you up. Oh my god, I had a few jump scares in real life. And I don't know, maybe I'm thinking that the 90s were like this completely different age, way further away than they actually were. Maybe tech was more innovative than I thought it was, but I was just surprised that something like this existed back then. I could imagine playing this on release was probably just a mind-blowing experience. And the story is so bizarre and weird, but really interesting. I mean, you're following this mystery guy around the whole time, and at the end he's revealed to you in this really just bizarre way. I love the 2 endings that you can get. I thought that was really interesting. Really just all around really fun experience. I didn't realize when I started it that there was a remake called Black Mesa. The next time I play these games, I'll definitely have to try that version. But I'm really glad I got at least one run through of the original, just naked Half-Life experience. I haven't touched the DLCs yet. I have them. I know there's one where like you can play as the cop. I know there's one where you can play as the army that invades you, which, by the way, I thought that was another crazy part of the story that I just was not expecting. When these aliens come to invade you, the military comes to kill you and the aliens, so you can't tell the public about the aliens. Just crazy. Really just one of the biggest surprises I've ever had in gaming, and I probably shouldn't have been, because everyone has nothing but good things to say about this game. But for me, I just expected it to be a lot more dated than this. Particularly the Zen level. When you go to the aliens planet, you get to Zen. It's just so colorful and spacey. After spending, like 15 hours in a science lab, wasn't expecting to look at something so colorful and cosmic in the last few levels. Yeah, would definitely recommend this to anyone that still hasn't played it today. And in that same regard, Half-Life 2 was just as amazing of an experience as playing Half-Life 1 was. Same thing, I was just blown away. If Half-Life 1 was showing how far a late 90s PC game could be taken, then Half-Life 2 felt like a demonstration of how far a PlayStation 2 era game could be taken. The shooting mechanics are upgraded. You're not auto-locking onto people anymore. You're actually moving where you point your mouse. The story is a lot more put together. It's still really ominous and doesn't answer a ton of questions, kind of gives you more than it answers, but I like that. I think that's really cool and gives rise to a really communicative fandom. And it's even freaking spookier. I was kind of embarrassed how spooked I was getting at Half-Life 1 because that game is so dated. Half-Life 2 straight up just was scary, and I stand by that. And I think it would scare you too. If you don't believe me, give it a shot. It is very much worth playing in 2025. They both are. I haven't played episode 1 or 2 yet. Probably gonna play Black Mesa, then replay Half-Life 2, and then get to those at some point. Might do it on stream. But yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about Half-Life or Half-Life 2. And if we get a Half-Life 3 in my lifetime, I will die happy. Goodness gracious, Undertale is a game I could talk about for hours. And if you know me in real life, you probably know that I have. This game I've had for years, but have never touched because I've heard so many good things about it that I knew I was gonna get just obsessed with it. And lo and behold, here I am, obsessed with it. I've beaten this game 3 times now. The first time, I did the neutral route, and I thought, that was an amazing game. Maybe a little bit overrated though. People talk about it as if it's like a top 10 game of all time. I definitely didn't get that vibe, but I enjoyed my time with it. Then I beat the pacifist route. Especially after seeing the True Lab stuff, I was convinced, okay, this is probably a top 10-ish game of all time, at least for me. I get the hype now. It's amazing, created basically entirely by one person. It's got this amazing soundtrack, one of my all-time favorites in games. Incredible, incredible story that I just get lost in. Developing an emotional bond with these characters, especially in the pacifist route when they all become your friends, was really motivating. I love seeing the differences between this run and a normal run. And then I played we'll call it the No Mercy route, destroyed my soul in the process, felt terrible, but had a blast nonetheless. By the time I finished the final boss of this run, I was convinced that this is one of the greatest pieces of art, let alone games, ever created. It's just so impressive what they do with all the different levels and worlds, all the different characters, the combat style being a mix of bullet hell shooters, but also turn-based combat like you'd get in a traditional RPG. It was a game that just kept on going, and I couldn't believe how deep the scope of it was, especially knowing it was done by one person. Something I just became obsessed with and am still obsessing about, watching YouTube videos on, just learning the lore of so many of these ideas. One of my favorite things about this game is just the theme of determination. The main character, Frisk, that's like their superpower, right? Their determination, their will to go on. And it's talked about anytime you save the game. And it's just talked about in such a cool way that kind of reminds me of like Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man, it's talked about his determination is listed amongst his powers, his will to go on, to always get back up after getting down. And I just think that's just such a cool theme. A good reminder that anyone can do anything they put their mind to. It's really just about the effort, the love, the passion, the determination, if you will. Now, I'm pretty sure I was the last person in the world to play this game, but if somehow this game has still missed people and there's someone out there that hasn't played it yet, please go play it 3 times over. Do all 3 routes. Let me know your thoughts. I'm just so obsessed with this game right now, and we'll probably play it just so many more times in the future. Just a 12 out of 10 game. The last game I'm going to talk about is the one that kicked this whole journey off, Super Smash Bros. Melee. I've been playing since 2001. It was my favorite game as a kid. It's my favorite game as an adult. Obviously, like when Brawl and Smash 4 came out, I transferred over to those games and always played them casually. And then my junior year of college, my best friend told me that there's a competitive scene for Super Smash Bros. Melee, and that he had actually started going to tournaments for it. Once I started watching major tournaments on my own, I was just completely hooked. This was going to be my new personality. And to this day, it is. This is the greatest game that has ever been invented. It's one of the few games where the skill ceiling, I think, is literally infinite. It's been around for 23 going on 24 years now, and we're still seeing improvement every single tournament from the top players. There are certain games or sports or just competitions that I look at and I see the top players, the top competitors, and I think, you know, they're a lot better than I am at this, but I could see a world where if I trained night and day. I could get to a level that they are. Melee is a game I see the top players and I just genuinely have no idea how they're doing what they're doing. The level of talent of some of these people is just ridiculous, and I don't think there's a game that showcases individual personality quite the way that Melee does. And especially with gameplay that's just so addicting and just sick. It scratches that childhood itch because I used to play it as a kid, but it also gives me something to improve at as an adult. It gives me a goal to work on. It gives me a community of friends. It gives me a reason to travel. This is the most passionate community in all of gaming, and it's because we love our game. The stuff that happens at major tournaments is so crazy that there's a major joke in the Melee community that there's a script that players have to follow. Because some of the storylines that happen any given tournament are just so crazy that they feel unbelievable. They feel larger than life. You'll see breakout tournaments from players who shouldn't be beating the people they're beating, or, you know, a player that's never won a tournament before finally breaks through and beats their bracket demon. And then even just on the local level, it's so cool watching your buddy beat someone that he's lost to over and over again, or beating that demon yourself. It's all about improvement. Everyone's trying to get better. Everyone's having a blast doing it. It's an intimidating game to try and get into, but I promise if you have any interest at all, just go to a tournament. You will be swarmed with people trying to get you into it as best as they can. I will also say we have the best GOAT of any competition or sport. Our GOAT Mango is just the greatest human to ever live. Shout out Mango Nation. Yeah, this game is just so much fun to play as a player, to watch as a fan, to spectate. This game has given me more tangible memories than any other piece of art ever has. So those are the games I've been playing the past 5 or so years. Some of them I've completed, some of them I'm still playing. Those are just the ones that made enough of an impression on me that I wanted to talk about them today. The game I'm playing right now is Hollow Knight. Been loving that one, been having a lot of fun just getting lost, exploring. Really love just the cool sound design, the graphics, the environment. Just gives a really cool gothic feel, but it's also blended in a cartoony way that makes it like almost kind of cute, but mostly gothic and sick. Other than that, I'm just finishing up some of these games I talked about today that I haven't finished yet and looking for new stuff to play, so let me know if you got a recommendation for me. Thank you so much if you stuck around, if you made it to this far in the video. This is something new for me, making videos like this. Kind of just looking at my life right now. I'm 28. I want to be doing fun things that I enjoy. Maybe making memories or something to look back on, like these types of videos. So this is important to me, and I really appreciate sticking around if you made it this far. I'm going to try and do more stuff like this, so feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. And yeah, see y'all later.